Welcome to Virtual Japan as we are here today for round number 6.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Fultz. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona and away. Joe for the first time. Nicholas Borcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 the lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Kimball Cup Series presented by the Old Bastards Racing League. I'm your host, Gareth McAllister, bringing the action with Team Goon Squad in 1080p and 60 frames a second, provided my Australian internet can allow me to do so. Joined in the booth once again by Eric Essery. It is great to have him here with me today, and we're going to be bringing you all the action we possibly can here at Kansas Speedway this afternoon, or evening, I should probably say. Eric, how are you feeling today as we continue to watch these boys go around for qualifying at the moment?
Well, I'm feeling great. Going into Kansas, it's just one of those tracks, when you hear it, you think, well, it's just another mile and a half, but the way these cars have been practicing, it's going to be a good race.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be quite a good race indeed, and I'm going to have to say these drivers might have to be looking out for entry to pit lane, because if we run under green, it looks like they're going to have to drop quite a number of miles an hour as we watch Mark Schrader now with an attempt to get himself higher up on the board, as he's currently making his first attempt going around the track right now. Lloyd Moore sitting on pole at the moment with a 31.43 around the 1.5 mile oval at the moment. So looking pretty good, feeling pretty good. And what do you reckon we're going to see out of today's race, Eric?
Well, the way Kansas is, it's that multi-groove, progressive banking. And typically, out of all the mile and a halves, here's one of the rare tracks that you do want to run the outside, and it has a good amount of grip up there. As you see Schrader going around the racetrack just a second ago with his qualifying, it just has just enough grip up there. But also, you can run the bottom, so you're going to have multiple grooves. Talk to a couple of different guys. They got different mindsets of how they're going to run the race. Some of them want to run high, some of them want to run low. That's what's going to make the racing great here. And also with the fuel mileage, you got to look. They say you can go about 58 to 64 laps, which is a 158 lap race. You're going to have 2 stops at least, so you may short that up if it looks like a green flag type of a run. But I doubt we'll see that. It looks like just the way these tires wear and the multi-grooves, it wouldn't be surprised to see a caution or two, just like in the real-life race.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that is the way it's going to go. I'm looking for how well a lot of these drivers are going to be able to maintain the percentage, the level of tire grip underneath them throughout the long run, as we watch Victor Lane as he starts to have a go at his first attempt here to get himself up on the board. We have about 38 drivers, I believe is what I counted before we went into the qualifying session tonight. So got a lot of drivers coming out as per usual in the Kimball Cup Series. And it is always fantastic to see a massive grid coming out here tonight. The low groove, the high groove, the middle, we've heard all three work pretty well here. And it looks like Victor is going to solidify himself in the 19th position right now. Hopefully his second run will put him a little bit higher up in the standings, as we continue to have a few drivers still going out on track at the moment, trying to get something done. A long qualifying session here, about 10 minutes, and we've only got about 7.5 of that completed so far. And you know, Victor Lane, one of those drivers that we don't talk to a whole bunch, but he shows up each week and just runs his race, and he finds himself not typically up near the top spots, but consistency is key in a championship sense, and even if you don't finish near the top, just finishing in the middle can sometimes really make your way up to the front here on the long runs.
Yeah, definitely. He comes into this race. He's 21st in points. He has only started 9 of the 11 races, though, so you can kind of uh, have that as part of it. But he is one of those guys that can keep it clean. I've looked at his incident points, which is, with the iRacing rating that they have, he's among the lower as far as incidents per race, which is a good thing. And with this type of a race, like I mentioned, with the way these multi-grooves are, you're going to have a lot of hard racing. If he just keeps it clean, he could find himself in a good top 10, and that's always something to build on when you find yourself kind of in the back early in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. As we saw Clint Rice as well, another driver that I just wanted to highlight real quick, Eric, if that's okay with you, because I haven't heard a whole lot from Clint Rice, but I believe you mentioned not too long ago that he's one of those drivers that took a long hiatus from this series and then came back, and he seems to have absolutely phenomenal pace as he works his way all the way into the top 4 during qualifying right now.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he gets everything he can out of his car. He's really fast. You know he's going to put down a good lap. He's only ran 4 races this year, but 2 top 10s, including that 3rd place last week. So he's one of those guys that can get it done. He does have 2 cup poles since he's raced in the OBRL series, so no surprise to see him up front.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely another one of those drivers that we look forward to seeing, as I believe Chris Bates, Brian Lynch are currently out on track right now, as well as Joshua Robinson. Our most winningest driver with not a better way to say that, but yeah, our most winningest driver this season so far. I believe he's got 4 wins to his name. Joshua Robinson, one of those drivers that I think I was talking to you last week, and you were almost saying to me that he's almost like a big rival for you, or at least I certainly think so when it comes to tire saving strategies. And you two really are up there in this league, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely probably head and shoulders above everyone as far as how well he can manage a tire run. And what makes him great is not just the full tire run. If he knows he's going to run 50 laps and everybody's going to run 50 laps, he's good at that. But when you get that caution with 30 to go, he knows exactly how hard to run that car and to get all he can out of that 30 laps and not leave any on the table or burn them up too quick. So, and you see just he's just always up front. This will be another track where I think he can be able to get that done.
Yeah, sounds like we're going to have to look at quite a number of drivers coming to the green flag and beyond today. But we're going to run through the grid now, as Tom Ogle has found himself up in pole position once again, a driver that is very much used to starting around near the front. Lloyd Moore, a great performance from him, starting in the 2nd position. Greg McDaniel and Clint Rice in our 2nd row alongside each other. Chris Bates with an amazing performance from him as well, up into that 5th spot, with Dwayne MacArthur taking it home in 6th at the moment. Troy Baker and Michael Watts in your 4th row. Your 5th row, Clay Walker and Brian Glass doing a great job, as well as Joshua Robinson, I believe, leaving a little bit too late in qualifying and falling a little bit further behind than we're used to seeing, down in the 11th position. Dave Nestor in 12th right now. As we cycle it on back, Cameron Chaussee in the 13th position, Brian Lindsay alongside with Lee Warsdell and Robert Garisco in the 15th and 16th spots. Courtney Nelson and Brian Lynch in 17th and 18th, with Jonathan Green and James Waldo in the 10th row. Mark Schrader and Greg Hammond in the 11th row. 12th row, Dustin Martinson and Victor Lane. Our 13th row, as we cycle on back, is Michael Dow with Larry Corey, Mark Fish and Kermit Gentry Jr. in the 27th and 28th position, with Victor Ryan and Wayne Hufford in our 15th row. Bruce Pearson and Eddie Jones in our 16th row. Jeff Lydon and Brian McRubbin in our 17th row, Bob Fellenbaum and Alan Wanamaker making up 35th and 36th, with Daniel Ed Green, our lone triple-digit driver, starting near the back alongside Michael Lemonchek. So we're going to get ready as we've ran through the grid just a little bit later than we were expecting as we get ready to run it to green. So Tom Ogle takes home the checkered flag for the first time tonight. We'll see if he can make it the last time as well, as Tom Ogle and Lloyd Morgan side by side and continue to do so all the way up through this field. It is side by side action as Tom Ogle has finally left Lloyd Moore back there as Greg McDaniel has worked his way, and Lloyd Moore has a little bit of an incident, and cycling fanning out all over the track goes everyone else as they try and avoid after Lloyd Moore got a little bit into the wall. Still continues to rub it as drivers fan out every which way to try and avoid the Wonder White bread machine as he is falling back quite quickly. So better to have it now than later on though.
Yeah, Lloyd Moore, he's a guy, he goes fast. That's what we talked about last week. He fits that paint scheme. Ricky Bobby, that's all out. If you're not first, you're last kind of a deal. And it looks like he may have some damage that's causing that car not to run as good as he'd like right now. But he was just trying to get all he could on Ogle there on that first lap, and it bit him.
Yeah, absolutely, as it looks like he has fallen well back as we cycle it back further up to the front. It looked like Dave Nestor was trying to make a move there on Cameron Chaussee, and I believe he has made that happen, as Robert Garisco is also down on the apron. Not sure what's happened to him as well. Wanamaker and Hammond also showing as they may be down pit road, as well as Victor Ryan. So I believe there's a whole bunch of a mess really early on when it came to Moore's, I want to say almost a wreck. He's in pit road right now, so hopefully with a bit of luck and a number of cautions he can work his way up to the front, as Dwayne MacArthur has currently set the fastest lap time with a 31.52 seconds lap, and he has made his way up 3 spots already into the 3rd position here out on track.
Yeah, no surprise to see Dwayne MacArthur in that 83 Bass Pro Shop. He's just one of those guys that's going to get what he needs to do. But just these opening laps, everybody's just trying to get all they can out of it. One thing that can hurt you is watching the real life Cup race before this, and sometimes it's bad that it is right after, because sometimes you pick up bad habits watching those guys just kind of run all over each other in the race and trying to get too much. And it looks like a couple of these guys are doing that early on.
Yeah, an interesting take. I never really thought about that before, because you typically think when you're going to watch some of those pro series on the real life screen, you can think to yourself that you might be able to pick up some pointers or learn some tips from those drives running around. But you might be right. They may be just picking up some bad habits, trying to think they can get all they can early on, and potentially getting themselves involved in a little bit more mischief than they would appreciate right now. As you've got also slightly further back for the 7th position, Brian Glass and Clay Walker side by side with a massive train behind them. As you can see, they are fanning out all over the place. I believe Dave Nestor has actually provided us with a little bit of an onboard camera, so we might just jump on that and see if he can reel in some of these drivers in front, as the 36 machine currently sitting in 11th has just made his way underneath Robinson, who's side by side with him at the moment. So that is unfortunate timing from us to jump in the car. But there you can see, just poking into the side, trying not to get too close, Dave Nestor to Robinson as he makes that pass on the inside line, and Walker just in front. You can just see the banking as well as we use this camera angle, and the run from the high line as Walker blocks Robinson up on the top there, and that is getting interesting pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, Josh Robertson, it's a surprise to see him, even though he's still running in the top 10, just there in 10th or 9th position now, but he's one. He understands his tire wear. So you know him and the 2 car there, Clay Walker. We talked about him last week being great at Dover with the tire conservation. I think those 2 cars right there, the 23 and the 2, will be a couple of them to watch for the long run here.
Yeah, absolutely, we will keep a close eye on them, but they may be using up their tires a little bit too much as they battle each other as well back here in the 9th position. And Robertson finally takes that spot away. Now, we have heard a little bit about the draft here, as well as how bad Dirty Air can be. What's your take on that, Eric? I know you had a little bit more to do on that side of things when it came to just what these drivers are coping with here today at Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, it's interesting concept. iRacing, you know, obviously this is simulation, and it seemed like that was one.
All right, I believe we may have lost Eric Essery, unfortunately, there, as he struggles with his own internet issues, and he did warn me beforehand. So apologies for that one, but we're going to keep on going with it, and hopefully he can get that sorted briefly and come back to us and get us filled in a little bit more on the information side of things as we continue to watch this battle slightly further back in the pack, because towards the front they are all running the high line, though, you could see, which is a very interesting take. Definitely something I'd want to get some opinions on, as it looks like most of this field is running the high line. The first one I believe that is not is going to be Chris Bates in that 6th place right now. And it just looks like the top lane is the way to go, which is very interesting here. It's slightly more banking, but I would have thought a lot more treacherous with that wall oh so close to these machines, as Dwayne MacArthur has made his way around Tom Ogle now. And Greg McDaniel has also found his way to the lead. Dwayne MacArthur is not letting McDaniel out of his sight, as he runs a slightly lower line than the other 2 drivers around him right now. So only 14 laps completed. We have a long way to go to get to our target of 150. And it is definitely looking like Ogle is going to be fighting with MacArthur. Got very close to the rear bumper just then, but it is one thing to catch up to the driver in front and another thing to pass entirely as Ogle attempts to make his way through underneath MacArthur now, as they go side by side heading into turn 1. And it's going to be very difficult to make that move on MacArthur on that high side. We've seen it seems to have a lot of a run up top, as Ogle continues to try and make something happen, get a little bit of draft. Will he cut back down? No. Files back in behind MacArthur for the moment. So these 3 drivers really doing all they can to stay as far ahead of the pack as possible. As you can see, all the way back to 4th position with Clint Rice. You have to cycle back a little bit of a way, as you can see that gap there, about 2 seconds between them from Tom Ogle down to Clint Rice. Going to cycle it on all the way back to the 21st position. It looks like there's a bit of a hectic battle going on back here. Michael Dow, James Waldo, Mark Schrader, Kermit Gentry Jr. just in front, Wayne Hufford as well. All of these drivers in a very, very tight pack indeed. And you can see slightly further up front, Eddie Jones and Victor Lane going at it as well. As you almost wonder if they're going to slow each other down and allow this pack behind them to catch up a little bit, as these drivers continue to run the low lane. Eddie Jones, one of those drivers that we didn't see the qualifying that he definitely wanted here, as he started well back in the pack, but making it known right now that he is here on a mission, as he is up 14 spots right now, your biggest mover of the race. And he's got a lot of ground to cover, though, if he really wants to make up some spots. He has a very long way to go to get to Greg McDaniel up on the pole position right now. Looks like Mark Fish on that high side having a little bit of a wobble on that 42 machine, but gets a nice run around McRubbin. That's going to be 3 wide for a brief second with Dustin Martinson as well, but Martinson gets through and McRubbin also maintains position. So unfortunately, with as big a run as Mark got, he wasn't able to do anything with it, but tries it again on the back stretch heading into 3. And this time he's going to get a little bit of dirty air on corner entry, and there you can see he's just drifted up the track a little bit. McRubbin allowing a lot of room though. And it looks like these two are going to continue that battle just ahead of them. Bruce Pearson and James Waldo side by side once more. So Pearson taking over that position as Martinson looks on. Rubbin and Fish still side by side. As we cycle up a little bit further because we have a battle going on for the 7th position. Look who's found his way closer to the front. It is Joshua Robinson. And he is working his way through traffic slowly but surely as we have a little bit of an issue from Dave Nestor. Very, very loose on corner exit of turn 2. Manages to keep it together though. And amazingly does not lose a single position in that either. So maintains his 9th position. Going to have to be a little bit careful as those rears are going to be very, very hot for the next couple of laps before they come back down to regular temperature. As he maintains a very solid position though in the 9th place. Troy Baker and Brian Lindsay side by side behind him. As they've got Clay Walker, there he is once again. The number 2 machine is looking just behind these two. And Clay Walker's trying to take advantage of that draft behind Baker. And Baker goes down to block Lindsay, which allows Walker to almost get to the side. Not quite able to do so, but very, very close to it indeed. Troy Baker maintains that 10th place spot for now. Dave
And this is the
working
point.
on Brian Glass, and here we go. We have Eric. He is back after having that internet connection issue. Eric, I apologize if you were talking that whole time through it, but you had a little bit of a connection problem during that whole stint, so I had a little bit of a takeover. Yeah, but if you can remember what you were going to say, let us know what you were thinking.
Yeah, before I get cut off again, I guess that's the beauty of traveling. But yeah, I was just going to say this is about the point where you're going to see the tires really show up and you know, the goods off of them now, and you're going to see these guys get sideways. We saw Nestor about lose it there. It's not a surprise to see Clay Walker make that move that he just did. He's a long run guy. But going back to what I was talking about with the aero push, iRacing has struggled to replicate that, but here at this track, it is definitely prominent for whatever reason. You'll see guys cut across the nose of someone else, and the car in the back will just push real bad, meaning the front end just doesn't grip and it'll go toward the wall. So it is very prominent here, and what'll happen, especially when you got a guy that's leading and a guy that's chasing him in second, the second place will be doing all he can, but he's just burning the right front because the nose keeps wanting to push. And so you really have to be mindful of that and kind of pace yourself when you're gaining on someone.
Yeah, it seems like the draft is playing a huge factor on the straights, but it's not something you want to see when you get to the rear bumper of someone heading into corner entry. It looks like that dirty air being right behind someone is really affecting the aero, like you said, and that is really hurting the entry of some of these cars as we continue to watch the battle here. Brian Lindsay and Troy Baker have been side by side for about, I want to say, 4 or 5 laps now, and they just will not let each other have that position. And it looks like Courtney Nelson is really trying to get something involved as well as he tries to stick his nose there. As we're going to ride on board with Cameron Chaussee. Slightly further back here, just behind this battle, actually sitting in the 14th position. Right in front of him, Courtney Nelson in 13th. And Troy Baker and Brian Lindsay in 11th and 12th. Just up ahead, side by side. You can see the rear bumper of Lindsay on that low side there. And really you get a feel for just how heavy the banking is. I believe it's only about 17 to 20 degrees of progressive, but that's a lot when you consider. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but you can see on the camera itself just how much it's swinging in the cockpit there.
Yeah, and 20 is a lot, but it's still not enough when you're driving, and you just need that little extra to maybe get a little bit of a grip more than, and you feel like you could just gain on that guy, and you feel it pushing toward the wall, and you miss it by an inch, and still brush it coming out. But yeah, it just provides a really good racing surface with that multi-groove or multi-bank progression that they have here at this racetrack. And you see Jonathan Green back there get a little sideways.
Yeah, and it definitely looked like that worked actually really well for Cameron Chaussee while we were on board. He made up 2 positions, both on Dave Nesta and Courtney Nelson. So he's working his way up slightly to the front. He's only gained 1 spot from where he started so far, but doing a great job so far is Cameron Chaussee. Or Chaussee, as you told me before the actually broadcast started. So I got to start working on getting that one into my vocabulary as he continues to work his way forward and really working on Brian Lindsay now.
Yeah, we talked about him last week, how he was just a surprise to be up front and as high as he was in points. And then even after last week, he moved up another position. So he's just one of those that keeps very consistent. I talked to him before the race. He said that Kansas was actually a first track that he really got into and ran a full race at. So it's kind of like being a rookie and coming back to a track the second time. You get better and better, and he's showing that right now. And if he does what he normally does every week, he'll just progressively move up. I can see him getting the top 5 today.
Well, that is definitely high hopes. As I was actually gonna, you've just made me think of something that I will get your opinion on in just a moment. But as we pan the camera back to Bob Fellenbaum, he's just made his way around Michael Dow for the 21st position. And that is looking pretty incredible driving from some of these drivers who found themselves having unfortunate incidents earlier on and falling a little bit back, but working their way through. Speaking of, Eddie Jones I'm not sure what happened, whether his qualifying was just not up to par or he had some sort of other issue at the start, but he's up 18 spots so far and continuing to put some of these cars behind him. It's honestly incredible, but one thing I was going to get your opinion on earlier on as I was starting this whole spiel that I've just had is, Eric, do you have a choice of what driver you think is going to manage to pull it off today?
Well, it's really easy to say the regular guys, the 23 of Josh Robinson, the 83 of Dwayne MacArthur, the 11 of Tom Ogle. It's really easy to pick those, but one guy that's been out a couple of weeks and he's back in. We mentioned him last week, even though he wasn't even in the race, but it's 6th place Mike Watts in the Lowe's car, number 84. He's our painter of the league. He's been painting up a bunch of throwback schemes for next week's race coming up, so he's just really good at that. And he's just very consistent as well. He's a very intense racer. If you ever get out there and race with him, he'll make it fun, but it looks like we got trouble.
Yeah, it looks like a caution has come out. Or it looks like Michael Lemonchek has gone off track, so we're going to see, and we can cue that one up quite quickly for you. And it looks like we may not have actually caught that one on camera. So that's going to be very, very sad for all involved. Let's see if we get a perspective that one. See if we can find it as quick as we can. I'm not sure we're going to be able to see it because we may have had a little bit of technical side of things once again. So we try and follow Grisco to see if we can find something. Justin Martinson, we don't have him either, so yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think we'll be able to find that one, unfortunately, for any of those interested in... Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to find that one, as Michael Lemonchek is not showing up on our cameras right now. And it just looks like a bit of a unfortunate situation, really, that we can't show you that. But pit stops are underway with the majority, in fact the entirety really, of the field coming down and taking some fresh tires as well as fuel.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because we said it was a 150 lap race, so you definitely had to make 2 stops. Well, now we're only on lap 37 here, so these guys can go on 1 more stop. So that means you're going to have to really push the tires and get all you can out of a full run. So you're not going to be able to short pit. You're going to have to get all you can out of it. So if they were to go green from here, they're going to really be conserving those tires.
Absolutely. As interestingly enough, Greg McDaniel won race off of pit road ahead of Tom Ogle, which is not entirely surprising as Greg McDaniel was coming down first, but I am very surprised to see Dwayne MacArthur made it out in front of Ogle. Now, they were running second and third, but I thought with Ogle having that #1 place pit stall, it may have helped him get the jump on Dwayne MacArthur, but unfortunately it looks like his pit crew wasn't quite able to get it done, as Dwayne MacArthur's pit time was only 14.9, one of the faster pit crews out on track right now, so they did a phenomenal job there to get him done as quick as possible versus Tom Ogle's 15.3, so much quicker time on pit road, and he must be very happy with that Bass Pro Shops pit crew to get him out, staying in the second position right now.
Yeah, I was watching pulling into the pit. It looked like Ogle just went in very conservative, whereas MacArthur in the 83, he just got on the brakes just right and landed right in the middle of his pit stop. And that can make a difference in this iRacing system that, if you come in and just hit the brakes, hit right on your marks, you can get maybe a half-second quicker pit stop. And he just barely beat Ogle across that line, so it was kind of a photo finish there.
Yeah, definitely close from the camera that we had, as well as we're currently showing that Lloyd Moore is in front of the leaders. I believe he's doing that to get his lap back. I believe they're going to show him that flag in just a moment as we go around once again. But you know what, Eric? We were talking earlier about how, without trying to play favorites, of course, as to which driver we think is going to find themselves in victory lane. And I almost think if Lloyd Moore, I probably shouldn't be saying he's my pick, but I almost think if Lloyd Moore can make his way back onto the lead lap here tonight, I honestly think he's with a good shot. Get himself up there. We heard during practice, we saw during practice, that he was very, very quick, and he seems to have figured something out at Kansas. Unfortunately, trying to get all too much on the start at the start of this race, but if he can get back up there, I think he will be my pick, actually. You know what? I'm going to pick the Wonder White Machine, and we'll see if he can make his way back up to the front, depending on if he can get a little bit lucky.
Well, Gareth, he is scored 10 laps down right now from that damage. He had to pit under green and fix. So, not to say you can't have 10 cautions and get 10 waiver rounds, but it would be a stretch for him to do it. But he did have a good qualifying run and was mentioned by a couple guys as one of the quicker ones out here today. So it's a shame he had that trouble, though.
Yeah, well, when you say 10 laps down, that makes me think, maybe I made the wrong choice. Yeah, but you know what? We've made a choice. We're sticking to it. I definitely hope we don't have that many cautions, but you never really know how this one plays out, as Greg McDaniel and Dwayne MacArthur are going to get us rocking and rolling. Here we go, under green once again. And there we go, past the start-finish line. It looks like Dwayne MacArthur's actually got a little bit of a jump on Greg McDaniel at the moment. McDaniel choosing the very high side Not sure what the move with that was, as we heard there's a little bit less grip on that high side, I believe, before the start of this race. So not sure if that was the right move, as Ogle has now taken full advantage, and they're going to go side by side as Ogle and MacArthur have a little bit of a bump and grind together. And Ogle is going to drop down to the bottom and try and get away from MacArthur, but it's not going to work as MacArthur dives down to the bottom and blocks Ogle's run now. And McDaniel is trying to get himself back up into the picture as well after that restart. And oh, this is getting dicey. Whoa, speaking
Yeah, I
of,
think
as Chris Bates almost has a little bit of an issue. I'm not sure. It almost looked like he got turned a little bit there or got very loose. Thankfully, didn't take out any other driver. I'm sorry, Eric. What were you about to say?
no, yeah, I was just looking at that restart there with Ogle up. He got aggressive there and got into Dwayne, but he relinquished the spot, give it back, and then they went back to racing. So they got that respect for each other. Ogle's one of those guys, though. I mentioned it last week. He will push it to the edge, and sometimes it bites him. But it's what makes him fast, is because he knows where the edge is by the time they get to the end of these races. So, um, it's just part of what you get with him. But it pays off for him, and he's able to get a couple wins out of it as well.
Yeah, and I tell you what, don't look now, but Josh Robinson, he's still been working his way very slowly, calmly, and methodically up towards the front, and he has now found himself in the top 5 positions. I want to bring your point to this, Eric. We've seen a lot of drivers, especially towards the front of the field. We had the same thing as we got around, well, pretty early on, actually, at the start of the first long run we had here tonight, first green flag run. We had a lot of drivers going up to the high side of the racetrack. And do you think that high side might be a little bit better on the start of these races now?
Well, and that was a couple things these guys were talking about, that you can run both lines and they're both have their advantages and disadvantages. One good thing about the bottom line is on a restart when the tires are fresh, that is the fastest way. So you were right with McDaniel taking that top side, that it not necessarily the best line for a restart, but you see what he's done though. It could be just his driving style that burns up either more of the rear, more of the fronts. What I'm hearing from the drivers is if you run the top side, you're wearing more of the rear, whereas the bottom is wearing more of the front. So he may have just wanted that outside to get going on the restart to conserve his right front, and now you see what it's done though. He's gone right back to the lead, so he's got a feel for what his car wants and what it needs, and it's paying off for him. He's running good.
Yeah, Greg McDaniel, one of those drivers, neither of us really I can certainly say for myself, one of those drivers that I don't think I'm used to seeing him. I'm used to seeing him in the top 10, but I'm not used to seeing him out front, and he's showing a great job so far. He's really seems to know what he's doing, and like you said, a little bit of a bobble on the restart, but it seems that he's come back to him and he's able to get it back fired up. Gonna have to keep an eye on those temperatures in the car though, as yellow flag has come out once again, and this time even my software doesn't know where this has happened. So we're gonna have a quick look and see if we can find anything, as it looks like it may have something to do with Jeff Linden. Jeff Linden, excuse me. Oh no, Linden is the right way, and yet, oh, there's a little bit of contact there. We're going to cycle that one a little bit further back just to see it once more. It looks like, so the 30 and the 39 and the 89 all may have come together. So Jeff Lydon on the low side there. I believe that's Courtney Nelson in the middle. The 89 machine of James Wadlow up front, and no, Wadlow avoided entirely. So Nelson just got a little bit loose, came down right in front of the 39 machine, and Lydon just got a little bit of a fish slap, and a lot of smoke coming off of those tires, but a lot of runoff, thankfully, here at Kansas Speedway, as the Piggly Wiggly machine manages a bit of a piggle wiggle himself on the apron as he gets it locked down, doing a phenomenal job and keeping it right direction. So we're going to have pit stops here now.
Yeah, notice everybody's coming back down. There's going to be a few guys to stay out just for the wave around. And as we talked about Lloyd Moore and that Wonder Bread, I mean, that's just another lap he's going to get. So it's not out of the question.
Oh, absolutely, as McDaniel just barely pipped Dwayne MacArthur, who in turn just barely pipped Josh Robinson and Tom Ogle at the line. That was about as close a race off pit road as I think I've ever seen here in this series.
Yeah, Dwayne Mc.
Oh, I believe we're having a little bit more of connection issues from your end, Eric. So, definitely as Eric is a round traveling in the States at the moment, so he is having a little bit of an issue connecting here and there. And it looks like he said, there may be Lloyd Moore getting another lap back here. That may play out in his favor if we keep on having these issues. And this is not something that we really thought we were going to see. Talking to Eric and some of the drivers beforehand, we were thinking that this one may go green for the majority of the race. And so far, of course, it has been. But we're seeing a few more cautions than we expected so far. And we'll see if this drivers can clean this one up and get a little bit more of a green flag run being shown. But Victor Lane getting the limelight up at the front at the moment, as he, I believe, decided not to pit at all. So Victor Lane going to lead a lap here at Kansas Speedway. But the real question has to be, how much will that hurt the drivers behind him? And which side will he choose? Will he choose to go high? Will he choose to go low? These are all answers that we will find out pretty soon. Victor Lane, one of those guys that joins us in the chat room all the time. And speaking of the chat room, thank you very much, Daniel Hill, Dwayne MacArthur himself, as well as Dustin Martinson and Victor Lane have all joined, as well as Jeremy Mayo, have all joined into the spectator areas commenting section on the YouTube side of the broadcast. So thank you very much for tuning in, letting us know how you're feeling, how you're doing. And I know some of them are drivers. I believe most of these guys actually that I've just mentioned are drivers, and they should be driving. Don't text and drive, kids. But all of that was done, I believe. Most of it was done either under caution, which there shouldn't be, or I think the predominance of them was really during qualifying, once they had wrapped up and gone back to their pit stall and garage area to prepare for the race. So nothing too harmful going there, but we're getting ready to go back to green once more with Victor Lane and Greg McDaniel in our first row, Dwayne MacArthur, Josh Robinson in the second row, with Tom Ogle and Clint Rice in our third lane. We are going to get ready to go back to green. Lane opting for the inside line. Dwayne MacArthur just behind with Tom Ogle, one of the aggressive pushes that we're used to seeing. Victor Lane's tyres 12 laps older than the majority of the field. Let's see how it pans out for him right now as he takes it home through the front right now. But McDaniel very, very strong on that high side. We've seen it all race long. And we'll see just how quickly Victor Lane will get eaten up here. And this will be a sign for drivers in the future. If this works out quite well, then we may see strategy play out in the later part of this race if we have a late caution. And there are drivers fanning out all over the place. It looks like we hinted 3 wide and maybe 4 wide, as Ogle's not quite far enough ahead to make that stay 3 wide, as we almost decided to go at it. But Victor Lane falling back, not too quickly, but falling back a little bit on those older tyres and stuck on that low lane as well. Currently fallen down to the 7th position, fighting with Eddie Jones, who has worked his way up to that 6th place right now. As you can see, plenty of battles going on further back in the pack as well. It's going to be Jonathan Green and Chris Bates right side by side with Cameron Chosey as well as Dave Nestor just behind them as well. You could see Troy Baker had a little bit of a bobble. That meant that Wayne Hufford and McRubbin had to evade a little bit. Both came down to the inside lane. They were able to not really get anything done there, as Troy Baker has been a very strong force to be reckoned with on that high side, but definitely closed that gap. Looks like Wayne Hufford is trying to make his way through the pack as well. So many drivers coming out here tonight. Fantastic racing to see. We're going to pan the camera all the way back to the 27th position. It looks like Lee Warsdale and James Waldo are going side by side, as well as Mark Schrader just ahead. You can see the 12 machine there on the top side of the racetrack as Lee Warsdale tries to make his way around the both of them right now. And as these two continue the battle, we can go pretty much anywhere out on track, as Brian Lindsay with Brian Lynch and Michael Dow all very, very close together. Wanamaker looking on as this one fans itself out with McRubbin just ahead in the Duff machine. So these guys all having their battle. Tom Ogle setting the fastest lap of the race with a 31.5 flat. So Ogle with a fantastic run as he tries to track down McDaniel up in front at the moment. Continues to try and make his way through. Changing the camera up to the top 5, and it looks like Michael Watts under fire from Eddie Jones right now. Eddie Jones and Dwayne MacArthur. MacArthur comes down, disrupts the air in front of Jones, but Jones keeps it pointed the right direction. Didn't really seem to phase him all that much, as he held on to that 5th place spot now right next to Michael Watts up high. And we'll see if he can take that one away, as Robinson and MacArthur are just in front having their own battle. So the Titans of OBRL have found themselves towards the front of the pack so far. As they continue to race, we'll see if Eddie Jones and Dwayne MacArthur, the two teammates, can link up here and try and make their way around Robinson, as Robinson is really doing a great job holding them back. Cycling the camera back, Michael Dow, Courtney Nelson, Ryan Lynch, Alan Wanamaker, side by side, the 4 of them 2 deep. As it looks like Wanamaker's gone a little bit too high for his car's liking, dropping back just a tad bit. But will get the run, especially with the draft of Michael Dow's machine. See if that one pans out for him. As these cars continue to run to right, I'm very, very impressed with how close all these battles are. Behind them, you can see Garisco trying to make his way around James Waldo as well for the 28th position. Mark Schrader and Wanamaker. There's a little bit going on here, as Kermit Gentry Jr. looked like he got the worst end of it with a little bit of a bobble. Falling back a few positions into the 30th place now. As we look up towards the front, because Mr. Ogle has found himself in a fight with McDaniel. Ogle still on the rear end of McDaniel, almost looking like Ogle is trying to see if he can juke out McDaniel to try and get him to run a line he doesn't really want to run. But McDaniel, that high side, they are working so well together. He's so strong up there. And he seems very composed and relaxed right now, even with Ogle all over the back of him. That number 1 machine doing a fantastic job of keeping it together. These two continue to battle it out for the lead. And we've got a good, 1.2, 1.3 second back to Dwayne MacArthur just behind.
And one thing with Greg McDaniel. He has the win this year, and it was at Kentucky. They ran Kentucky instead of the Coda Road Race, and he won there in this similar track. So no surprise to see him up there.
And the yellow flag has just reappeared. And it looks like it may be a further back in the pack. We'll see if we can get a replay dialed up. We're currently looking at Waldo. See if there's anything going on here. Bit of a wider angle. We can have a look at what may have led to that one. So got a little bit of tap on the wall, but nothing really doing. Not sure. Oh, just behind them. I saw that for a split second there. Is that Gentry? I believe that may have been Gentry. As yeah,
It looked
so
like Gentry caught the wall and got into Larry Corey in the 17
oh
Western Auto car.
oh absolutely. As Larry Corey went for a bit of a spin, as the 7X ejection just could not get there fast enough. And just a little bit of a tap to the rear bumper sent that 17 machine careening into the wall. Just a bit of netcode playing its part. Bang. He slides it on most of the back stretch. So unfortunately bringing out the third caution here tonight, lap 64. And we were getting underway to see a great battle between McDaniel and Ogle. I guess we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer before we see where that one comes into fruition. Eric, how are you feeling about this race so far? And do you think we'll see any more cautions, or will we get this one going up green for the most part for the rest of it, do you reckon?
Well, it set up a theme here. We kind of see what's happening. It's the multi-grooves that's causing it, and then these cars are still getting loose coming out of the corners, kind of like Dover even. But you just got a lot of yaw in the car, and the banking falls away. That's where the grip is losing. So you're seeing a couple guys get sideways, and then when they're side by side, there's someone to run into. So unfortunately, there's just setting up for cautions. Another thing with this pit strategy now, you're still going to have to pit at least once, and so it's just going to shorten the length of the run. So you don't necessarily have to be as conservative on the tires on this next run here.
Absolutely, you're entirely right. As every single driver on the grid has come down during these pit stops, as Lloyd Moore once again stays out to get another lap back. Larry Corey has come down to fix some damage. And I did want to get a little bit of a look at Victor Lane, who is sitting back in the 25th spot. Last restart, he decided to try something else, stay out on slightly older tires. It didn't seem to affect him too much. Maybe he had a little bit of an issue. It does look like he spent a little bit longer in pit road than some of the other drivers around him at the time. So I wonder if he was just repairing a tiny bit of damage that he may have sustained rubbing against the wall or whatnot. But I don't think it worked out as well as he was hoping for, as he's found himself back in the 25th position so far.
Yeah, and with that strategy though, it was interesting. I expected him to fall back so fast that it was going to cause a crash. That's how much I would think tires would have effect. But considering he wasn't, a top 10 car at the time anyway, I thought he held on really well there. So it'd be interesting to see if somebody doesn't try it at some point if the opportunity presents itself with a late caution.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I definitely think that some of these drivers will try that strategy. And I was wondering that myself. It seemed like the first 5 or so laps, he seemed pretty in the pretty well in the driver's seat. I mean, that's That's a metaphor I didn't have to use because they're already in the driver's seat. But yeah, so they definitely had a good going of it so far. And then seemed to drop off a little bit longer after that. So I wonder, with a late race caution, if these drivers up front are going to take note of that and think that, you know, driver position is really more of a factor as we wind the laps down here tonight. But Greg McDaniel and Tom Ogle going to be taking it back to green flag racing once again, as McDaniel this time chose the low side line, and we'll see how that one plays out for him.
Yeah, he probably listened to you, Gareth, in the comment. The bottom side just did not work in the last restart, but here he is the top side did not work. Now he's on the bottom. Maybe just be trying it out if nothing else, but I think that's definitely the way to go on a restart.
Yeah, interestingly though, it does look like that has given Tom Ogle that top spot, and they're going 3 wide as Dwayne MacArthur tries to get himself involved as well. Robinson almost looking at 4 wide for a second there. Ogle still trying to defend very high up the top, as MacArthur and Ogle have both taken those positions away from McDaniel, who's fallen back into the third. Eddie Jones has found himself up there as well, as McDaniel gets a little bit loose, gets into Jones, comes back up the track, gets involved with Robinson. Robinson comes down and collects more cars. It is absolutely frantic, as I never would have thought at Kansas. The big one has come out.
Just a hectic restart. Greg McDaniel just, had lost the lead. He's trying to run as hard as he could right there. Just wanted to maintain, if nothing else. And you see it all the time. It's just hectic. You got this track that provides multiple lanes. We just talked about the yaw of the car coming out of turn 2 over there. Made contact with Jones, and then it was on from there.
Yeah, that looked absolutely chaotic is the best way I can really describe that one, as we're definitely going to have to watch from Greg McDaniel. We'll watch this one in slow-mo as, again, get a little bit of a wide shot. So here we go. So McDaniel gets a little bit loose off the corner, comes down, tries hard to fight it, but can't do it. Eddie Jones doesn't see him coming up until just a little bit too late, gets into the back bumper. Eddie comes down, but doesn't collect anyone, I don't believe. However, McDaniel gets sent back up the high side, and unfortunately, Robinson was there, not just the wall, and the two of them are sent careening in front of the field, and everyone tries to stack back up there. Robinson comes down off the banking as they start heading into the corner, collects Bates, and then I believe Warsdale gets involved, Nestor gets involved, and Bellenbaum just avoids it. Lindsay involved. I mean, who wasn't involved at this point? So Jones, Glass, McRubbin, Bellenbaum, Lynch, Waldo, Dow, McDaniel, Green, Robinson, all down pit road. And yeah, what more can I say about that one?
Yeah, just the big one. And Josh Robertson involved. He's the points leader. And so this will be a blow to that. And, he's another guy that comes out of races with very little incidents. And sometimes it's just not your day. He got caught up along with several others. I think Eddie Jones, though, with that initial contact, sent him down to the apron. And then he was able to regain control of the car without further incident. So I think he that first initial contact actually was what saved him from being involved more in that wreck.
You may well be right. I mean, Eddie Jones, one of those drivers that, like you said, it could have been a whole lot worse for him, but thankfully that little tap didn't affect him too much. What it really affected was McDaniel being sent all the way back up into Joshua Robinson. So, yeah, just certainly a sizable wreck we didn't expect to see here tonight, as the wrecks we've had so far have involved only maybe 1 or 2 drivers, very slight contact with walls, and all of a sudden, I guess that's what happens. They say cautions breed cautions, and we saw an example of that just there.
Yeah, and what this does, when you see a lot of the front runners get involved, it brings in new players into it, and I can't help but keep looking at the number 2 car there sitting in third, Clay Walker. He's a long run kind of guy, and here he is, just taking advantage of a situation, from the unfortunate events that happened for the other drivers. But he's one of those guys. This could be, his day to take advantage of it. Also, the 84 Mike Watts. He's just kind of been quiet. He's another guy I was just talking about before the caution came out earlier. How he's very clean. He'll race you as hard as anybody, but he keeps it clean. And anytime I've been on the track with him, I've had the best races ever just with that 84 Lowe's car there. So, those two guys in that second row are two guys I would keep an eye on that could pull out a win today.
Yeah, we will definitely keep an eye on that, especially since the 84 car is the car you chose to find its way up to the front tonight. So that'll be very interesting to see if you're right. And I wonder if we can almost arrange like a little gift for you for being right on your pick tonight. That'll be quite interesting. I might send you something nice all the way from the land down under, Eric. But regardless of that, we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. Right now, Tom Ogle and Dwayne MacArthur going to be up on the front row with Michael Watts and Clay Walker, as mentioned, in the second row, as well as Chris Bates and Troy Baker. Both of those drivers doing a fantastic job as well, finding themselves in the third row here tonight as we get ready to get rocking and rolling under green once again on lap 73, heading into lap 73 of 150. The green flag has just come out as Ogle and MacArthur lead their way through, and the horsepower gets dialed up. Looks like there's a fair bit of a line gap, especially on that low side further down in the standings. But right now we're focused on MacArthur and Ogle right now because they are so close together. And these two, we know they find themselves around each other a lot, and we wonder if history will serve a little bit of a factor here, as Ogle and MacArthur are going to try and race each other as clean as they can, but as hard as they can, with Watts and Walker looking on just behind, ready to pounce, given a moment's notice.
And we saw those two get together just a restart or two ago. So, sometimes, even though you respect the guy out there and we all respect each other, if sometimes you get a leaned on just a little, you keep that in the back of your mind. And it's not that you want to go out and wreck them or put them in the wall or anything, but you just know you might put it a little harder into the next corner with them, just because you remember what happened a few laps ago. So just something to keep in mind late in this race.
Absolutely, as it's almost like a comic book story. You start off with the two brothers, and then they get into a little bit of a fight, and it just delves from there as you can see contact once again between Ogle and MacArthur. Neither fault of either driver, mind you. A little bit loose, a little bit of touch of the wall looked like from Ogle, coming down just ever so slightly into MacArthur, but thankfully not in any sort of bad way or malicious intent. So we're going to keep rolling here, and I'm sure labeled as a 0x. But speaking of doing a great job right now, Wayne Hufford is up 23 spots in the 7th position. Now, there's quite a number of drivers, like you said, that we haven't talked a whole lot about that are finding themselves up near the top right now. What's your take on Wayne Hufford so far?
Yeah, well, Wayne comes in 8th in points. He has 3 top 5, 6 top 10. So he's one of those guys that can pull off a good race. He's one of those that puts a lot into this series. He does his own streaming, and afterward he'll go over each incident. There's some of the rookie guys that will watch his stream and go back and just see what they've done wrong, or just see his point of view on it. And he's real unbiased with it, and just gives his honest opinion of the race incident. And he just does a good job at helping this series, and it's good to see him taking advantage of the situation right now. He's just moving up even a couple more spots there.
Yeah, absolutely, as we saw him moving into the 5th place, and now working on Michael Watts to move into the 4th position just behind Clay Walker, using the advantage of the draft on the back stretch now. As Ogle and MacArthur are nose to tail, it looks like Clay Walker is going to take as much advantage as possible. And as you mentioned, Clay Walker, one of those drivers like Michael Watts, also in this top 5, that are known for saving their tires. You've got to wonder, though, just how much tire saving they're able to do as they fight it out here too wide for a consistent number of laps. And Harford almost looks like he's going to get involved here. They takes it... Ooh, thought about taking it 3 wide. I was getting ready to make the call. Backed out of it, I believe. So, thankfully, nothing doing, as it looks like Ogle has taken the lead demandingly for the moment from MacArthur. But MacArthur is looking to pounce back pretty quickly. These two drivers, I almost don't want to pan the camera away, as when these two get close, you always know magic is going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. You know, they're two different teams. You got Team Miata there with in the 11 of Ogle and Last Ditch Racing there with Dwayne MacArthur. So two different teams, and you know, their competition. Josh Robinson, he's crashed out. Greg McDaniel's out. You know, they feel like it's just them two right now. But I'm telling you, these guys in 3rd, 4th, and 5th right there. They're not out of this thing, and they can see the lead, and they don't want to give it up. I talk about Clay Walker in that 2 car, how he's very consistent with his speed and gets all he can out of tires as well. But he can see that lead. He's not one that's won a lot of races, and when he sees the lead that quick, you know, he may just say, I want that lead. I don't care if I burn my tires up at this point. So you get a lot of that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point you raised there, because it's really one of those things. Do you use up all your tires just trying to get the lead, or would you rather savor the finish that you're having right now? Because we're still only about halfway through this one, just over halfway. So I'm not so certain it's a smart idea to work your way desperately to the front, especially if you're not super confident in just what you have under your car. But he could prove me wrong, and that could be the way to go, as it sounded like we lost Eric Essery once again. So very unfortunate to see that happen, but we're going to keep with him, and he's not going anywhere when we can bring him back, because I very much value his opinion, as well as I know a lot of you watching at home probably very much value what he has to say as well. As it looks like the battle for the lead is going to continue in a dramatic fashion, as Dwayne MacArthur goes side by side once again with Ogle, getting very, very close to the quarter panel of Tom Ogle. There was Dwayne MacArthur, and they give each other plenty of room around the corner. Ogle's going to have that run on the high side though, and manages to keep the position due to that fact. So he's going to stay in first right now, with MacArthur and Walker still trying something interesting here, with Watts as well on that high side. And you can see just how close. So we've seen historically so far in this race, there has been a bit of a gap developing, but you can see the line all the way back. I mean, there is no gap larger than half a second from 1st to 20th. So these drivers really putting on a dramatic show, as we almost can't look away from this battle for the lead, because it continues to be the focal point of the race so far. Both of these drivers, Ogle and MacArthur, well known for having great short run and medium length speed, as it looks like Clay Walker is trying desperately to make his attempt towards the front now. And we're going to see just how well that can pan out for him, as he loses a bit of time to those two drivers in the draft up top. We're going to see if he can lead this lap. Will MacArthur decide to push him to the front? No, so Ogle's going to once again lead a lap. And Clay Walker is just in that sort of situation where he's looking there thinking, just how am I going to be able to manage to pass these guys in front? I need some help. And it looks like so far no one's going to give it to him. He drops behind Watts now. And Watts, speaking of, gets high up into the wall has a little bit of a run on it. Thankfully doesn't get stuck up there as NASCAR so often do. But he is going to lose that spot to Wayne Hufford on the underneath. So Hufford is going to take that 4th place spot away. But Watt's still doing a pretty good job on that high side. Now that he's gotten off that wall, shouldn't hurt the aero or the tires much in that machine. It was only a very small tap. So should be pretty golden as we cycle it on back, because Fellenbaum and Warsdale are side by side, as well as McRubbin and Chaussee just behind them. Excuse me, Chaussee. I've really got to work on getting that one corrected, as it looks like Warsdale traveling very, very close to the wall. Not sure what the strategy is there, as the 99 machine continues to try and work his way around as fast as possible. We cycle it back up to the front because MacArthur is trying once again to get around the 83. To get around, sorry, the 11. Dwayne MacArthur is in the 83. And Ogle is doing a... I mean, I keep saying they're doing a phenomenal job, and that's because they just are. And there's no other words for it, as Hufford once again tries to take a spot away from Watts. 75 machine doing a great job so far. Trying to get that low line speed, but that high line just has such a run on corner exit. It's really not going to help him, as Watts almost looks like he was thinking about making a move on Clay Walker there, but decides against it, as Clay Walker, interestingly, is continuing to run the bottom.
Yeah, you know, and historically here, Gareth, in the other cars, most everybody would run high. Now, with these cars, it seems like you can do multiple grooves a little even, but I would still take the bottom and just see what would happen on the long run. And even though it felt slow, after a course of 30 laps or so, I'd start being able to pick guys off. So I was saying that Clay Walker is probably just going after the lead here, but you know, with his strategy on the way he normally runs and the way he has a good feel for conserving his tires, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just sticking to that bottom, because it is conservative and will pay off here, and we'll know in about 10 to 15 laps if we can make it that far.
Well, now, when you say conservative, you're talking about tire wear, correct?
That's right. Yeah, just the conservative approach to your tire. It seems like when you run the top side, you're barreling off in there a little quicker. You're putting more load on that right side, and you know, you're having to put more wheel into it, you know, for a longer amount of time. Maybe not more wheel, but a longer amount of time. So the bottom seems like if you can just get it to rotate and get it pointed, even though it is tighter radius, you know, it seems like sometimes you can save those tires by running the bottom. And Clay Walker, if anybody could do it, I think he would. So, and he's hanging right in there with two of the best.
Absolutely, and don't forget about Michael Watts and Wayne Hufford either. You know, they're still right there with these drivers up front. You know, all of them sitting within half a second of the leader. Oh, yeah, I should say from Ogle down to Wayne Hufford, it is about half a second gap, maybe a little bit more, but certainly not getting separated too much now, as you can start seeing the gaps that we're used to seeing from when you get a longer green flag run. So Wayne Hufford to Troy Baker's about 6/10 of a second, going to 7/10 of a second now between 5th and 6th, and there's another gap between 9th and 10th between Garisco, who's worked himself up into the 9th position. And you know, that's a driver who we were talking about early on, who you were thinking that he's actually, I believe you said to me earlier on that, you know, you were looking for him to find his way to the front, and here he is sitting in the top 10.
Yeah, he was mentioned in practice as a guy who would watch out for, and we talked about him last week some. He's been pulling off some top 10s, and here he is. He had trouble early, and he's found himself right back in this thing. So I was hoping to get to talk to him during a caution, but I didn't want to bother him while he was, you know, in a little bit of trouble, but maybe we'll catch up with him if we get another one here.
Alright, sounds good. I'm very much looking forward to that, as I'm sure a lot of the spectators are as well. As just in front of him, Brian Glass and Chris Bates are having a little bit of a battle as well for the 7th place position now. And Eddie Jones and Bob Fellenbaum just behind them are closing the gap to these 3 drivers. And it almost seems like they're working together right there in the 10th and 11th spot.
Well, we saw Jones have that trouble earlier, and but you know, he may have gotten a little bit of damage on the front end because there was some contact there, but may have spent a little time in the pits as well, kind of mired himself back. But he's done a good job getting back up there, and Philibom there in the 38. He's just taking advantage of that big pile up. He got through it, and just trying to get a top 10 out of this.
Yeah, and it's looking pretty good so far as we... Oh, Eddie Jones going 3 wide with Garisco and Bates doing a fantastic job on the low side as we jump on the bumper camera of Bob Fellenbaum. And he's made his way underneath Garisco, trying to make that one work, and right up to the back bumper of Eddie Jones just in front. You can see almost taking a peek to the high side there. I'm wondering if that's playing a role here in just trying to see if Dirty Air's trying to play a factor, and looking like he's a little bit higher than Eddie Jones at the moment. So not sure if that's a strategy game or what is happening there as he continues to work his way through the field. Barisco and Bates have a little bit of a checkup though, and it looks like he's going to be able to take those spots away, as well as Eddie Jones just in front.
Yeah, going back to that dirty air, that's one thing. If you watch an onboard camera in a real life race, you see they're just racing as all they can right now. But in a real life race, you'll see sometime someone cut across the nose, just like Eddie Jones in the 14 did across the 38 of Philomon there. In real life, you'd see the cowl on the hood start to flutter and move up and down, and that's a signal to that driver that you're getting aero push. One thing about iRacing, you don't have that depth of it. You just know that the front end just takes off on you. So it's almost a disadvantage to get that feel for aero push in iRacing as compared to like a real life where you get a little bit more of a feel of that aero push happening.
Yeah, and you know, if you don't mind me asking, Eric, if you can speak a little bit more about that, because I for one myself am not a real life racer. Do you do any real life racing just in general, even at the amateur level? Because it seems like you know an awful lot, so I'm just curious.
No, nothing to the degree of having aero push, just local dirt track and go-karting. But even in the go-kartings, you can feel a draft. We've gone to some bigger tracks and had a difference just from being in a draft with those cars, so with the carts. But yes, it's just far as it's just the feel out here in the iRacing. There is a little bit of that they pulled in with the draft and then a push as well. But Kansas, just for whatever reason, just exaggerates those issues.
Very interesting take on Kansas. I'm not quite sure how that's come about either, but I tell you what, it's producing a lot of great racing, if nothing else, as McRubbin and Schrader are pretty close together, and it looks like just in front of them is our past leader, Greg McDaniel. So he's trying, he's still performing pretty well. His lap times are pretty decent, and trying to make his way around the hard way, I guess, as he tries to wait for a caution to help himself get back up to the front. But this is the battle for 14th, with McRubbin, Schrader just behind Fish, Dow, and Warsdale. And Warsdale, one of those drivers as well that we just see click off laps, and the 99 machine typically finds himself not too bad. I think top 15s are definitely where he can see himself at the end of this one, and that's where he sees himself quite a few races so far. And you know, like we say, consistency is really key. You know, you can be aggressive and win a race, but consistency is what you want to win a championship, and maybe playing it a bit safer on the odd occasion is the way to do that.
Yeah, you got to live another day. It's real inviting sometime to go into a corner, race a guy a little bit too hard. Maybe he chased you down, and you think, well, I could probably hold him off, especially if a caution comes out, it'll make a difference. But if you end up putting yourself on the wall or you spin yourself out, then all of a sudden that one position is very minute compared to what you just lost. So it's all about finishing. You know, to finish first, you got to first finish. That's that old saying, and it really comes true there. It looks like they had a little trouble coming on
Whoa!
pit road.
Green flag pit stop's underway, and someone has gone in, missed it entirely from what I
It's
saw
Ogle.
there. Ogle did miss it entirely. Oh, that's gonna
This is
severely hurt him.
this is not a race to be running up front as they're picking themselves one off at a time.
Absolutely right, as we will try and see if we can get a very quick replay of that one. And trying to find it here very, very quickly. One, show it to me. Alright, well, looks like I can't find it as quickly as I wanted to find it, as Ogle makes his way down pit lane fairly easily now, so great job for him there. Finally getting himself onto pit road safe and sound, but Fellenbaum is going to take over the lead right now due to those pit stops, and everyone has come in pretty much at this point. Behind, I believe Michael Watts may actually be the first one who is out on track right now. In fact, Watts got around MacArthur, and Watts is now on the apron. Oh, he's just coming out of pit road. That explains a whole lot. So we were showing Watts being in front of MacArthur, and that is because he was still exiting pit road. So MacArthur definitely taking the lead back and waiting for this to cycle through and see if he can find himself back up to the front once again. It's going to be interesting to see how long these drivers stay out for before they come down. Can they stay out long enough to make this a one... Are all these drivers, I should say, are all these drivers going to be able to make it if they've pit just in the last couple of laps towards the end?
Yeah, they can make it from here easily. They were just trying to cut from the last caution to the end. They were just trying to cut it in half. Now, it looks like Bob Fillenbaum, though, he's pulling the old stay out and hope to get a caution strategy. Now, he and Jones pitted after that last wreck, and no one else did, so he may have gone a lap or two extra just to make the halfway point in a different spot than hey, say the 83 and the 11. But it looks like Fillenbaum, though, he's going to stay out here as long as he can, just see if maybe he can catch a caution, catch a few guys a lap down.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's really the question. Do you think it's a smart idea for Bob Fellenbaum to stay out as much as possible and await that caution that he may hope for to come? Because at this point, I think if he pits now, he's lost a lot of positions after staying out for as long as he has.
Well, you got to run your own race, and sometimes you got to play the odds. And right, or just before that, looks like it's coming down now. But he's running around 10th. You're not going to win from there, so why not roll the dice a little bit and just see what happens. But you see he's going to come down pit road. Now, what that will do is it'll give him a little bit fresher tires than everybody else, even though it's just maybe 3 or 4 laps. It can mean all the difference, just to be able to pick a few guys off from here to the end.
Absolutely, as Daniel Hill comes into the spectator area and says, bad day for Miata, and is absolutely speaking facts out here, as there have been all sorts of issues, from Ogle missing pit road and unfortunate timing for Robinson getting involved in a wreck that obviously wasn't his cause, but just getting involved in it, and all sorts of issues happening out on track. As we see a massive difference right there, you could see Ogle with the fresh tires just monstering his way through the field. And that can sometimes be a big problem for some of these drivers as well. When you get the old tires versus the new tires, it can cause a lot of issues here.
Yeah, we ran into that at Dover last week, where you think your lap times and you kind of got it, strategized out. Okay, I'll run this lap time, but then when you're the only one out there on old tires, you're kind of in the way, and you're trying to still maintain your lap time, and you end up giving up more just because guys are getting runs on you, and you're not able to run the lap you're wanting. So, sometime you have to factor that in as well, but it's just a part of the strategy you got to look into, and another factor as well.
Yeah, Gray. Oh, it looks like Victor Lane may have missed pit road as well. And he has come to a complete stop. He's actually reversing to get back out onto pit lane. So that is... Oh, he's going to have to do a massive turn to try and bring that one back around, as he's actually gone forward over the pit lane. So that's going to hurt him. Probably... Would you say that that's a smarter move than going all the way around? It probably still is.
It just depends on, because sometimes when you go in reverse, the way the iRacing rules are, it can just immediately black flag you for going backwards on the track, basically. Another thing that could have done is caused a caution. It doesn't look like it did, but that was another thing that could happen, and that ends up giving you another EOL penalty, end of line. So I think the damage was done. So either way he did it. I think it was just it's catastrophic either way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's done a great job not to bring out a caution, and I've actually never seen that before. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've never seen a driver reverse to try and get back down pit lane. Usually you see the drivers going, oh, I've missed it, like Ogle did, for example, and go around again to try and get in the next lap, but I don't think I've ever seen that before. So kudos to Victor Lane to actually make that one work, and work without a caution as well, as I'm sure, because I panned the camera to it, I'm sure the world wants to see Ogle and Eddie Jones have found each other on track, and we know in the past there's been some interesting battle between these two.
Yeah, and you can't make this stuff up, because last week at Dover, Eddie Jones crashed out by missing pit road, hitting the barrels. And then, of course, Ogle let him know all about it this week. He actually recorded the image of Eddie Jones in the 14 hitting the barrels and replayed it over and over, having a little fun with it. And then, sure enough, in this race, Tom Ogle was the one to miss pit road. So, and now here they are back on the racetrack together. So it's interesting. I don't know if they're bitter rivals or just in love with each other, but one way or another, it's fun.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's kind of the impression you get. You don't know which one they are, but either way, I mean, they seem to push each other to the limit, which is really what you want to see from racing each other. And you're absolutely right. That was karma coming in and making sure that their job is done and that they found each other once again on track. So we'll see what happens as these two continue to fight each other very, very close together for the 4th place spot, no less, as MacArthur has actually developed quite a nice gap ahead of Michael Watts at about 1.3 seconds, as Ogle and Jones are side by side now as Jones tries to take that spot away. Yeah, Michael Watts and Wayne Hufford finding themselves up there. One thing we haven't mentioned, Clay Walker. He's dropped. He's a lap down at this current position. He came in at lap 106, which is the same time as Dwayne MacArthur. Potentially having some issues on pit road, though, as he's found himself a lap down, and very unfortunate to see that number 2 machine happen. As we continue to watch this battle with Ogle and Jones, just behind them, Glass has come around, found Fallenbaum, and what has happened? That is 100% going to be a caution, as Larry Corey was sent careening to the inside barricade. What happened here is we watched the 17 machine Oh, and just on the top, Michael Lemonchek in the number 70 just lost it completely and just collects the 17 right in front of Ogle and Jones. And these two, thankfully, don't collect anyone else in their wake. But yeah, the 70 machine just got incredibly loose, and unfortunately the 17, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the 17 caught him. But yeah, the 17 actually couldn't dial it in and collects that inside safer barrier, but I believe has avoided getting too much damage on that 17 machine for now, as we see the leaders come back down pit road.
Yeah, poor Larry Corey in the 17. That's twice he's been involved with something he had nothing to do with. Just a car he was around happened to lose control. So hate to see that for Larry in that Darrell Waltrip paint scheme. I love that old paint scheme. I wish we all had to run a classic one like that. But it's cool to see it out there. But he's just had some bad luck today.
It certainly seems the case, and that's unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, sometimes that's par for the course. You race in a lot of these leagues, and you have very, very close racing, and even if you've got nothing to do with the wreck that happens around you, you can just get caught up in it, and that's just the unfortunate deal of not just sim racing, but racing in general, as it looks like every single car on the lead lap, unsurprisingly, has come down pit road, gotten some fresh tires, and they're making their way out to get ready for the last 25 laps of this one.
It's going to be fun. While we're under this break, I want to see if I can't get caught up with Robert Garisco. Hey, Crisco, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, you had some trouble like in the first 5 laps, and you found yourself right back into this thing. You missed the big pile up, and you got a top 10 going. So tell us about it.
Oh wow, it's been rough. I had to do a green flag pass through penalty, and man, I'll tell you, these guys they're the toughest guys in iRacing to race against, and it's hard to get positions. And I'm really grateful I'm where I am right now.
Well, you've had a series of good runs, and we've talked about you on air. You don't have any wins in the OBRL, but you do have something no one else has, and it was a lawnmower endurance race win. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it started in our neighborhood. We were drinking beer one night, and one of the guys looked at me and said, "I think my lawnmower is faster than yours." And I said, "No, I think mine is faster than yours." And a couple other guys chimed in and said, "No, mine are faster." And the next thing I know, we've got about 30 guys racing lawnmowers, and we had a heck of a good time. And I was lucky enough to pull out a win.
That's awesome. That's the kind of fun you find up in Michigan, I guess. But we're going to keep our eye out on you, and you got a good top 10 here, and we're rooting for you up here.
All right, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Robert Garisco bringing it in, and might I say, nice interview, Eric. That was actually very good. And you know what? I've never raced my lawnmower before, but I'm keen now.
Well, I guess we know where to go if we want to race them.
As I wonder if that was racing. I'm assuming he's racing a ride-on mower, not just a push and pull sort of mower with a handle and just running behind it like a bit of a loony. But that would be actually hilarious to see. So, but no, great job from Garisco right now, as he's sitting in the 7th position, up 9 spots. So definitely nothing to sneeze at, as he is up there. But we're going to get ready to go green with Dwayne MacArthur, and Michael Watts is going to be in the front row of the inside lane, with Tom Ogle starting behind MacArthur on the high side, and Wayne Hufford in 4th, as well as Bob Fellenbaum and Eddie Jones falling back a little bit before that caution came out. Or I believe that was actually under pit stops. He's fallen back there into the 3rd row.
Yeah, and Ogle, we saw him miss pit road. He looked like he was out of it, but here he is, just in prime position. So it'll just be interesting to see how hard Watts and Hufford and those guys can play into this.
Absolutely, as we get it dialed in, and Eddie Jones is absolutely pushing Hufford as much as possible to the front, who is in turn pushing Michael Watts, who takes the lead for the moment. We'll see how much of a run MacArthur gets on that high side, though, as typically that is the position to be in. As we come into turn 3 now, it looks like the 84 machine is making his way under the 83, and they get very close to touching. Hufford has a big run, but it looks like MacArthur is going to hold on to the lead for the moment, as Eddie Jones is right behind the 11 machine and looking at Ogle's rear bumper right now. So keeping an eye on that once again, as Hufford gets a little bit too close to Ogle and they get into each other. Michael Watts involved as well. A caution's come out. Hitting the wall goes Watts. Ogle hits the wall very slightly as well. And oh boy, Ogle getting back towards the front after missing pit road. Now is involved in an issue once again. We're going to have to queue that one up once more.
Yeah, these restarts have been treacherous. That's where it seems like these tires are just a little cool. They're not getting that grip, and then also at the same time you're pushing, trying to get all you can out of it. And it looked like Watts got a little sideways. I think Hufford was just trying to miss them, and that's what got him into Ogle, and then they just all came together there on the backstretch.
Yeah, and you can see just how much smoke is really piling out of that wreck as they get involved with one another, and just really unfortunate, really great job of all of that from the 75 car, really making it so that he wasn't really involved all that much. Like, he didn't hit the wall at the very least, was what I was trying to go for there. So yeah, just I guess that's racing, and Team Miata once again having a lot of problems as Ogle comes down pit road.
Yeah, and that's what's unfortunate about this. There's only 20. It's going to be about 20 to go when they go back green. Even if you didn't make contact with the wall or really hurt your car, your track position at this point is going to be the killer. So, it'd be fun to watch them try to make their way up if they can, but at that point their race is over.
And very fortunate to see the 11 machine as well as Michael Watts, and also of course we had excuse me, we also had a bit of an issue there from all of them, really, from the 75 as well, as I just remind myself what that is. And I can't remember, I keep forgetting Wayne Hufford's name, but it's came to me even before I saw it on the timing screen. So my brain having a little bit of a moment there as well as we try to comprehend what is going on in this race. But, 21 laps to go. We're going to see Dwayne MacArthur with Eddie Jones up front. So is the team factor going to play a big role, or do you reckon in the last 20 laps they're going to go for it all and fight each other just as hard as they have been fighting the rest of the field so far? Eric, what do you think?
Well, we saw Talladega a few weeks ago. They worked together, and Dwayne even said, we just wanted to finish first and second at the very least, and so he just pushed Eddie Jones to the win. But now that they've both got a win, now they want to go after it. And you remember, I don't know if you remember in the post-race interview with Eddie Jones, I told him he was a win behind Ogle, so this is his chance to get up there and tie with them. So I think he's going to have that in the back of his mind, and he may race Dwayne, his teammate, pretty hard here.
Yeah, very interesting to note that, as Dwayne does actually have an extra win, Eddie Jones as well. So we'll see if they can divvy it up to a piece, or if Dwayne will take the third one. But I did want to mention at some point during this race, so now is as good a time as any, our triple number drivers. We've only got one out on track so far, and that is Daniel Edgren. And we haven't mentioned him a whole lot. He's sitting back there in the 29th position right now. He is up 8 spots. He is also a lap or down But you know, having a pretty solid run so far. I haven't called a single incident with his name being involved, so just biding his time, keeping it safe, and yeah, doing a great job. Nice showing out there tonight. As Edgren continues to make his way, and the field continues to be under caution for the moment. So it's interesting as Clay Walker, McDaniel, and Aldo all come down pit lane one more time just to get a little bit more damage repaired and get ready to go to green once we get past or get to the checkered flag one more time. Dwayne MacArthur and Eddie Jones starting up front in both lanes. MacArthur on the high side. Wayne Hufford and Brian Glass sitting in third and fourth. So luckily Wayne Hufford not affected too much by that issue there, as the yellow flag came out just at the right point. Chris Bates and Bob Fellenbaum going to be starting in your third row, with another driver that, I mean, we talked about earlier on, looking forward to seeing him up the front, Cameron Shosey, and he's in seventh, so with Briscoe in the 8th position. So we're looking forward to seeing how this one plays out, as so many drivers have had issues. And as Eric mentioned earlier on in this one, it almost seems like you do not want to be the one leading the race, as a lot of the leaders have fallen out of this one here at Kansas Speedway tonight. Eddie Jones taking a massive lead though over MacArthur. That inside lane really taking off very well as MacArthur falls into the clutches of Brian Glass, who again, one of those drivers, you know, I will say that, I mean, there's so many drivers we can talk about having great runs at the moment, but Brian Glass has worked his way up into the top 3, as well as Fellenbaum made his way up 32 positions now, as he finds himself battling for the 3rd spot with Brian Glass.
Yeah, those are 2 guys right there. It's exciting to see this. Fellenbaum, you know, he struggled to get some good runs, and here he is. Just everything's kind of gone his way. He's played strategy well, and it's just great to see him battling for a podium. And Brian Glass, this race has fallen right into his style, because he's one of those hard chargers. He doesn't worry about tires as much, and with these short, you know, 10 to 15 lap runs, it's fallen into his lap as well. So, you know. The way things are going, we could see him in victory lane here.
I'm very much looking forward to that, if that is turning out to be the case, as these two continue to fight side by side. That's not entirely going to help them, trying to reel in Dwayne MacArthur, though, just ahead of those two. And Dwayne MacArthur and Eddie Jones, they've just set the fastest laps, both of them, one after the other, of the race. First Eddie Jones, and now Dwayne MacArthur setting the fastest lap of the race with a 31.34. So that's a full 0.3 faster than our previous fastest lap at the start of this event in the first like 5 laps or so. So you're seeing that, I think, Tyre, do you reckon the cooler temperatures, it looks like, as the sun is slowly going away over the horizon, not quite enough to have a massive impact, but maybe a few degrees. Is that really helping tire temperature, or do you think it's just pedal to the metal and everyone is go, go, go right now?
Yeah, I think everybody's just giving everything they got. You can burn them up. I mean, you don't want to run qualifying laps necessarily, but at the same time, you know, you're giving it all you got here. And it's just looking at that Kodak car, Brian Glass. He's another guy with one of those classic paint schemes I love. He's driving right up in there, and you know he just wants to get his nose on the inside of a guy, just make him worry about it, and he'll race you hard too. So they call him the Bull. So if that tells you anything, but you know, he's giving it all he's got for sure.
Well, Brian Glass is doing a great job there, and you know, at the risk of sounding a little bit sentimental, when I was growing up, there was a Kodak shop actually not too far from me, and I remember I had one of those old disposable cameras, take a photo of it, you would have no idea how the photo looked, and then you had to go to the Kodak store and they would print it out for you. So definitely a huge fan of Kodak as well as the paint scheme, and just bringing a little bit of my memories back to light for me, so that's nice. But yeah, they have caught up, and I say they with Fellenbaum as well. They have really caught the back bumper of Dwayne MacArthur now, and I want to see just if they can really have something. These two Chevys can really do something against these Camrys up in front, as it looks like Last Ditch Racing is trying desperately to get away with it, but I'm not sure they're running quite as quick as they want to right now.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the draft that we talked about. That you know, with that, there is an arrow push that hurts you, but it keeps these guys from running away from it. So even though Dwayne and Eddie, they're in front or just kind of doing their thing, the draft is keeping these guys right there at it, and the run is just going to be short enough where maybe these guys can stay in contention and make a run after it. And I'm just really impressed by that 38 of Philibom. He's done a great job there, and he's taken third right away.
Yeah, indeed he has, as Brian Glass was a little bit slow on that high side there, allowing Wayne Hufford as well to come in the 75 machine. And it almost looks like, from what I'm seeing, MacArthur has a little bit more pace than Eddie Jones right now, but seemingly happy to stay behind. So I wonder if that is, in fact, a team effort. And trying to stay behind Eddie Jones, I wonder if he's going to throw the block in or deciding that he's going to take the lead. It looks like right now, as the Bass Pro Shops machine goes underneath the 14 of Eddie Jones and gonna try and take that spot away. I was wondering if they were working together, and maybe they heard me and decided to have a little bit of a battle as they try not to look like a bit of team shenanigans is going on. But it looks like that was actually very, very close indeed, as Eddie Jones got all sorts of out of shape, as Dwayne MacArthur, I believe, just tagged that left rear quarter panel. That got very, very dicey very quickly.
Well, from what we've seen, it's not unreasonable or unimaginable that these guys would get together just racing as hard as they can. And even though they're teammates, it's just the way this track conditions are, and you just never know what'll happen.
Speaking of not knowing what's going to happen, a yellow flag has come out, and we're showing it's for Wayne Hufford, which is massively unfortunate as he was running in the 5th position. See what's happened here, and oh, McRubbin has just got into the back of him, and that 75 has been completely turned around and sent into that high side wall, with Garisco getting a little bit involved with it as well, unfortunately, as he was also trying to make his way around. So he rubs against that inside wall. I don't know what you could see. You had a take on that one, Eric.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Wayne was just going into the corner, and sometime when you know a guy's getting a little bit of a run, you may go ahead and start your corner just a little early to maybe sort of semi block him when they do that. But I just think they're just racing as hard as they can right now, and Mick Rubin he's worked his way up and done a good job keeping clean and just trying to make a move there and to get all he could, and they just made contact. I just think it's racing, and I hate to see Crisco get in that wreck. We just talked to him, and now he's got damage, so hated to see that.
As we watch this one, and yeah, it looks like the move was definitely made by McRubbin, and it wasn't quite close enough from, I believe, Hufford's probably rear view mirror. And I'm not sure how close it was either, but yeah, just an unfortunate coming together of two drivers who probably didn't communicate as well as they could have as to what just was going on there. But either way, either how, I mean, you know more of what's going through a racer's mind, Eric. So, I mean, your take on it was pretty alright, pretty decent, and I reckon that that's probably going to stand as it is. So Eddie Jones, as well as Dwayne MacArthur, still going to stay up and control the restart from both lanes, with Fellenbaum and Glass just behind, with Chris Bates now, and Alan Wanamaker is showing up in the 6th position now. That's a driver we have not talked about all night long.
Yeah, and he's relatively new to this to this league, but you don't hear a lot out of them, and sometimes that's a good thing. When you're new, you just want to be putting laps in and getting in it, and he's had some rookie issues that's going on, as far as just being in the back or just trying to learn and gotten caught up in things, but he's kept it clean today, and as you see that from attrition, he's just worked his way up. So it's just another good run just by staying out of trouble.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, we had a couple of drivers in the, oh, I wouldn't say drivers, but a couple of spectators in the YouTube chat actually saying this race is about surviving at this point. And, I couldn't have said that better myself up here in the booth, as that's definitely the way it has been going, as Jason Fellenbaum is cheering on his dad as well. So that's great to see, as Bob is having a fantastic job at the moment. And, you know, he's sitting in 4th position, or 3rd, depending on where you look at it. I believe 3rd, as he is in the low lane there in the 38 machine. And, this race has, if nothing else, provided a whole lot of excitement for me, and I'm sure for yourself as well, Eric, up here in the booth.
Yeah, and it's uncharacteristic for the league to have this many cautions, and Dwayne being a admin, kind of the main guy there. He's probably not happy with the way things are going. Neither is Eddie Jones there, that's up front. But I mean, we saw today in the real life Cup race. It's just it's tight racing. It's a tough track. It's slick, and it just comes with it. And it's not anybody doing anything that's overly aggressive or anything. It's just the cars are getting away from them here or there, and it's caused a few cautions. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it, and I haven't seen anything where I just thought these guys are doing anything wrong. It's just like I said, just hard racing, and just the way these things play out sometimes.
Absolutely, and we love seeing hard racing up in the booth, don't get me wrong. It's unfortunate when we get some cautions coming into play as well. But we definitely like seeing close door-to-door racing, which we're definitely going, or we have seen, and we are going to see as we get ready for 3 laps of an absolute ball, as Eddie Jones and Dwayne MacArthur are getting ready to send us off under green. Here we go once more. 3 laps left in this one. Let's see how it goes. And we are rocking and rolling. So Eddie Jones taking a nice jump on that low side lane, and Dwayne MacArthur really putting the block, it looked like, on Bob for a second there, as Fellenbaum had to check up just a little bit. Brian Glass right behind. Dropping all the way down to the apron is Lee Warsdell. How did he find himself up in the 7th position? I'm not entirely sure, but he's done an amazing job to get there, as he is underneath Alan Wanamaker. So he has made his way into the top 6 right now, as it looks like we're going to continue under green for the moment. Eddie Jones has a nice big gap in front of him and behind, as MacArthur drops a little bit behind, but Bob is trying desperately. Mr. Fellenbaum is trying desperately to catch up here, as you can see a little bit of a battle going on with Cameron Shosey and Lee Warsdell now for the 6th place battle. The 6th place position, I should say. As
That's that 13 car, Chosey, just every week finds his way toward the front, and he's very best at the very end, and here he is doing it again.
Yeah, you've said that before, and you know what? I definitely cannot take that away from you, as that definitely seems to be the case. Brian Glass had a little bit of a bobble, it looked like, so he's fallen back a little bit of a ways. And it looks like the standings are where they're going to be, but will MacArthur make a move on his teammate Eddie Jones, or will he let him take it to victory? He's not pulling out of the draft, so we're going to say it. Eddie Jones takes home the victory here at Kansas Speedway, with Dwayne MacArthur and Bob Fellenbaum with the 2nd and 3rd place results. Fantastic job with Wanamaker and Warsdell actually registering as less than 100th of a second away from each other, with Warsdell just pipping Wanamaker at the line for that 7th place spot, excuse me. So that is about as close as you can get. and these drivers going to celebrate, and deservedly so. As we bring up the grid, or the results I should say, and once again, I will let this one roll through the grid so you can see where your favorite drivers may or may not have ended up in this race. And we will hand it over to Eddie Jones just briefly, see if he's got some final comments on the race that he has witnessed today. And yeah, we'll cue that one up for you.
Yeah, just pointing out a couple good finishes. Mark Fish just kept it clean as well. He ended up ninth. We talked to him last week. He had a struggle and turned it right around with a top 10, so good to see that. And then also Mark Schrader right behind him. So the two Marks got the top 10s. And, sometimes you just got to take advantage of those situations when attrition comes into play on these races.
Yeah, absolutely. Attrition was the name of the game. I mean, there was no other, as that was really the thing that really separated these drivers from each other, I guess, for lack of a better word. But we will get ready to go with our interviews here, as Dwayne MacArthur is already in the interview room, ready to get this one underway, as it seems the second place driver probably wants to just head to bed here as quick as possible. But waiting on Bob Fellenbaum and Eddie Jones to make their way to the waiting room now as well. And I got to say, this race, from my perspective, was probably one of the most exciting that I've ever seen. In my whole broadcasting career, there was long green flag runs, there was a bunch of cautions to bring the field up close together, great racing all at the end, and thankfully not a ridiculous situation which I have had in the past, where it's just green, white checkered after green, white checkered after green, white checkered. So great job from these guys to bring it home, as well as having a very entertaining race to watch. And I'm very happy to be able to broadcast this for everyone as well. As I'm sure you as well, Eric.
Oh yeah, just as I said before that last, for that last restart, sometimes it's just the nature of the car and the track and the track temperature, the way the tires wear, and sometimes it's just a chaotic race. But these guys are pros, and I mean, in my opinion, they were hanging on to them better than the real life guys. So, it's just sometimes these races come down to this, but it's still pretty exciting.
Absolutely, as we're going to get ready here to finally bring these drivers up into the booth, as Bob Fellenbaum took a little bit of time to get up here into the booth. But Bob, welcome to the booth. How are you feeling? Your son was cheering you on, and I tell you, this race was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what's your take on this one?
Are you talking to me there, Gert?
Absolutely.
Well, that was a good run for us. I really wanted to see the long green runs. I did not want to see that caution at the end, but we ran up through the field and might have had something for him at the end, but I was pretty happy with it.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, you made your way through. Do you even know that you went through 32 other machines to get your way into the top three? I mean, that is just an absolutely phenomenal charge. What was the key to Well, I say victory, it almost feels like a victory, but what was your key to coming into third place here tonight? Was it just attrition and survival, or was it really trying to dive it in deep and holding Brian Glass behind you?
Well, he's always tough to hold him off, but if you just I don't know, saving tires, just trying to save some tires. I almost died somewhere in there, and I can't believe I made it through that one wreck. But it's tough coming through the field, but it's a lot of fun. I'd rather start in the back almost every race, it's just a lot more fun.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, whether you started up at the back, or I should say at the back or up at the front, I mean, you would have had a phenomenal race either way, as it looked like it really panned out for you quite well toward the end there. Eric, anything to add before we say goodbye to Bob here?
Yeah, Bob, you know, you only have a handful of cup starts with these with OBRL, and it's kind of been feast or famine. But that's your third top five that you've had, and man, you look good there on the end. You think if you had like a longer run there, maybe another 15, 20 laps, you could have beat them?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those guys are always saving stuff too. But if that would have went green there at the end, I don't know. It would have been fun.
All right, well, Bob, I tell you, we have enjoyed your company very much up here, and I'm gonna let you go celebrate with the rest of your crew because a third place definitely nothing to sneeze at. Just before I let you go, friends, family, sponsors, anyone you'd like to shout out here tonight for this third place?
Well, I got to thank Jason. I'm sure he was watching and rooting me on, and yeah, it's always a good time. So thanks for having me, and thanks for doing the broadcast. I appreciate everything both of you guys do.
All right, good news, Bob. We will catch you next one. All right, that was Bob Fellenbaum bring it home in the third position. Next up, Dwayne MacArthur bring it home in second. Dwayne, how you feeling? And well, I guess how you feeling is the question that I really want to ask because you were up there at the front most of the race and it seemed like a little bit of craziness for a little bit there.
Yeah, it was good racing out there most of the race. A little disappointed. Kind of was feeling like I was gonna be able to bring that home. For whatever reason, couldn't get through the gears fast enough. So a couple of late restarts, and Eddie Jones no sludge out there. So tried to be patient. Uh, I was trying to be patient and just set him up, and I probably should have tried to pass him because that last caution kind of ruined everything that was going on. But feel good. Second place here at the OBRL is always a good finish.
Well, I tell you what, there was one moment that was very, very close between you and Eddie, where it almost looked like you were close to turning him around with about 4 or 5 laps to go before that last caution came out, I believe. What
Yeah,
was,
going into turn one.
yeah, what was going on there?
Just two teammates that are pretty comfortable around each other, getting a little too comfortable. Got on the radio there and we joked about it a little bit there real quick and got back to racing. But yeah, I felt like I was closer to turning him than he thought. He shrugged it off pretty good, but we've run thousands of laps battling, and we're just a little bit too comfortable around each other and tried a little too hard. That's all.
All right, sounds good. Well, Dwayne, you always provide us with a lot of info before the race, so very much appreciative of that as well. As I'm sure Eric is, I'm going to bring him in and see if he has a very interesting, maybe funny little bit of a question for you there.
Well, Dwayne, I've helped broadcast 3 races, and you finished second every one of them. Followed, or just prior to that, you had the win at Martinsville. So, uh, what do you think? 3 seconds in a row? Will you take that, or do you rather get a win and maybe a DNF every now and then?
I'll take seconds over DNFs, but I'm, you know, uh, a little disappointed. A couple of seconds in a row here. I mean, I raced against you a whole bunch. Like winning. Seemed to find victory lane, but last little couple of weeks in Cup, just a little bit snake bit and couldn't finish it off. I really, with 30 to go, I really thought I had this one after that good pit stop. But yeah, no, I don't like second. Second to Eddie is good. At least it wasn't Tom. But I'm a little fired up.
All right, well, Dwayne, before we let you go, any sponsors, family, friends you'd like to shout out here? This second place finish, not exactly what you were looking for, but definitely nothing to sneeze at here either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just gonna start just in case I don't get to talk to you again in a couple of weeks. But with Mother's Day coming out, just a shout out to my mom and all the moms out there. An early Mother's Day, but just wanted to say thanks. I wouldn't be racing or iRacing if my mom didn't make my dad let me drive the family race car when I was a kid. So appreciate that. And then I want to say thanks to all the guys out here today. all the admins help run the league, guys that help with content online, John and Mark, and just all the guys, all of our sponsors, Butt Kicker, AOLogs, Sim Racer Hub, Victory Lane Sports, of course, Kim Bowl, and Admin Box. Really couldn't do it without everybody, and of course to Goon Squad for putting on a show. Thanks to Esri for popping in there. It's a lot easier to finish up front without the Iceman on the track. He's a hell of a racer, and it's a little. Everybody gets one extra position when Esri's in the booth. So thanks for calling the race, Esri, instead of racing out there today, and appreciate everybody.
All right, well, sounds good. Eric, I'm going to let you have one more comment if you'd like after Dwayne's just called you out there.
Oh, Dwayne, I would love to be out there racing with you, that's for sure. But this has been a ton of fun. It's definitely the best alternative. So I'm kind of learning. I think when I come back, you guys got to watch out.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of information up there. It's pretty terrifying. You're already a lot to handle. So hopefully maybe you'll just come back to the track and stop studying all of us up there. And also a shout out to Tom Ogle today. He blocked me for 65, 70 laps. That's not quite as many laps as he normally blocks guys for there. So I hope he appreciated me laying on his fender coming out of 2 and getting them tight to get the lead. But lots of good racing with Tom. Everybody knows I'm just busting his balls. It was a good time out there, and thanks to everyone.
All right. Oh, excuse me. All right, sounds good, Dwayne, and we will catch you potentially next week at Darlington.
Yeah, I'll be the last one you talk to. Have a good time. See you
All
there.
right. See you, Dwayne. All right, that was Dwayne MacArthur bringing it home in second. And finally, we've got to bring up Eddie Jones, our winner for the night. Eddie, welcome to the booth. And how are you feeling right now? Pop the champagne, I bet.
Yeah, kind of wore out after coming to the front, going in, try to fix a little damage, and then having to come back through there again. Yeah, passed a lot of cars.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You had, I believe you were the second, yes, you moved up the second most amount of spots of any driver on the track, losing out to Bob Fellenbaum by 1, but still moving up 31 positions. Definitely not an easy feat, as well as taking home the win. What was what was it like passing all those cars to get up the way the front? I know that cautions probably played a bit of a role in that one, but when you were racing under green, did you find it very difficult, or was everyone pretty respectful?
For the most part, everybody was wanting to run middle and high, and I knew that in practice, so I worked on the low line in practice and found something I liked, and passed a lot of cars doing that, just running the bottom. But I knew once I got to the front, the bottom wasn't gonna hold up. I had to learn how to run the top once I got there. Once I got to the front.
Yeah, it definitely looked like the high side was the way to go. I did want to actually ask you one more thing. On the restarts, the high side seemed like it wasn't the way to go, but I believe it was either you or Dwayne, forgive me if I'm wrong, but one of you two really got that high side going on the restarts. I'm not sure how you were able to do that when we saw pretty much everyone else really struggle on that high side, and it took about a lap before it came in.
It must have been Dwayne because I started on the bottom every time when I was the 2 or 3 cautions I was up there. I started on the bottom, so
Okay.
it must have been Dwayne.
Well, I will say that you two seemed like you were going to work together to get your way up to the front and really keep you. I thought that Dwayne was going to stay behind you and push you to the lead, but it looked like you guys got very close to getting into each other at one point there coming out of the tri-oval. So what was your take on that? According to Dwayne, we did speak to him just a little bit about it, and he said you kind of shrugged it off, but it looked pretty chaotic from here in the booth.
Yeah, no, just good hard racing. I trust him and a lot of other drivers out here. Nothing, no mischief there. It's just this. We're not plate racing here, where we're trying to help each other and advance the team. Where the gloves are off here, we race, and hey, we rubbed a little bit, but hey, rubbing's racing.
Eddie
Absolutely.
Jones, listen,
Yes, sir.
I know why you're racing so hard.
I gave
is
one away on the
because
dirt, and I thought about it, Eric. I thought about it. I know. Go ahead.
no, it is because you are now tied with
Uh
career wins with
huh.
Tom Ogle.
Uh huh. And if I wouldn't have thrown that dirt race away, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Hey, I knew that was what you were pushing for right there. But listen, I've helped broadcast 3 races, and you've won 2 of them. So,
Stay there.
I thought that was coming.
Yeah, yeah. You stay there. If I don't see you on the track on Sunday nights anymore, that's fine as long as this keeps up.
Well, I tell you what, I also want to mention, Eddie, if you have a little bit more time, I also want to mention the fact we were talking about it during the broadcast as well. Now, you had pit road troubles last week, and Ogle was apparently taking the mickey a little bit, and then he had pit road troubles this week, and you caught up to him and passed him. That must have felt good.
I had a nice chuckle there when he did that, but the real chuckle, of course, I hate it for Wayne and Watts, but the real chuckle was being behind Ogle when those 3 had their mishap. That's what I really enjoyed.
All right, well, Eddie,
But
before. Oh,
well, I would like to say this service announcement. That last week is a note to kids: do not drink and drive.
all right, well, absolutely. I mean, I would absolutely second that, and I'm sure Eric would third that. So definitely don't do that. But Eddie, before we let you go, who would you like to shout out? Sponsors, family, friends, anyone you'd like to shout out, teammates, whatever, for this first place here tonight. You've done a great job, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So yeah, let us know. Let us know what's going on in your head.
I'd like to give Ogle the shout out. He gave me 2 nice chuckles tonight. Without him, it wouldn't be fun. So we don't get along well, but anytime I can see him bust his ass, I really enjoy it. So it's the reason I keep coming back because I know he's going to do something.
All right, sounds good. Eddie, we will talk to you later. Just before I let you go, once again, just quickly, what are your thoughts on Darlington next week? Throwback paint schemes, throwback track. How you feeling?
I'll still be in the Rowdy Energy car. It's a you got to respect her. You race the track. You don't try to get in a race with too many people. You just respect that track and see what it'll give you at the end. It ought to be fun.
All right, well, hopefully you can be one of the few drivers that may just be able to avoid the Darlington stripe, but we will see you later, Eddie. It's been great talking to you, and enjoy the win, my friend.
Absolutely. Good job there, boys. Enjoyed it.
Right, that was Eddie Jones bringing it home in the top spot. Once again, I would like to thank everyone for coming out and witnessing this absolutely, I almost want to say historic event, Eric, at the Old Bastards Racing League Kimball Cup Series. Thank you very much for coming in. I have been Gareth McAllister, bringing you the action if I can, as best as my ability in 1080p and 60 frames a second with Team Goon Squad. Eric Essery has been joining me in the booth the last couple of weeks, and I hope continues to do so as much as I enjoy seeing him on track. Eric, you got any final words for the folks watching at home?
Well, it brought a exciting race, and Darlington's coming up. You never have a bad race at Darlington, so we may see more of the same, but these guys can put on a show no matter where you go. So, looking forward to next week as well, and glad to be up here again.
All right, sounds good. We will see all of you next week, same time, same place. Don't miss it. See you then.